Okay, let's go.
Do it! Just do it! Jump!
Hi, my name is Nurse Jelani. I'm otherwise known as CitizenNurse, and I'm here today with my friend Nurse Alicia, and we're going to talk about advocacy. There's so many things that can be improved in terms of access to care and the type of care given to patients. And so our thing is how nurses can get more involved in advocacy and health policy and just policy making as a whole.
Yeah, and I like to always say that nurses are, at the forefront of all of these things. We see in our patient populations every day the effects of these policies, decisions being made without any insight onto the repercussions of the decisions. So as a nurse, you have not only that experience to see how it affects your patients, but we also are able to, flex our advocacy arm.
Thank you for watching CNAF.
This episode is brought to you today by the word of mouth, bipartisan.
Super excited. It's going to be a fun ride. Lots of discussions, lots of questions, lots of maybe tears, who knows. But I'm super excited to just be starting this. I'm super excited to be here with you. Let's do it.
Do it!
Very excited. And I think one of the things that I have to keep reminding myself of, and we've spoken about this before, is why. What is our why? Why do we do this? And I think even before that, it would be good to know our backgrounds as nurses, because, as we learn in advocacy and in speaking with lawmakers and speaking with anyone to gain influence, stories play a large role in that, right? Because knowing the story, knowing what's happening, knowing the beginnings of things really help people understand why things are the way they are and what needs to be done. So maybe we can each talk a little bit about our beginnings in nursing, how we started as a nurse, and a little bit about our journey, and then how we got into advocacy. And I know you have a wonderful story, and just whatever you feel comfortable sharing with everyone. It's really inspirational, and I'm inspired by it every time I hear your story.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's something that it's part of me. It shaped the way that I work. It shaped the way that I interact with everything, and I know it's the same for you. But I worked as an EMT. Right out of high school, I went to EMT school, and I did an accelerated program. I was super excited that I found something I was really passionate about. Seeing things at a younger age that maybe I wasn't ready to, process, especially being in emergency services, being in a male-dominated industry in emergency services. It was just kind of a lot. It was kind of a lot, and there was just, that's a whole other story to unpack for another day. But that was my foundation into healthcare, is going out on an ambulance and not knowing what you're going to walk into, or, as a female, being in the back tending to the female patients who had psychiatric or mental disorders that needed treatment. I was the only one that could be back there with them. So it was just a very broad spectrum of patients that I saw, really kind of honed my skills on assessment and things like that. But, in EMS, you can't, people do it forever, but there's only really two tracks. There's you go into fire academy and become a paramedic, or you work as an EMT for, however long. So I decided I wanted to get into nursing. I went to LVN school. So here in California, LVN, licensed vocational nurse, LPN in other areas of the country. And I really excelled in that program, and I found, this is really where I want to be. So started working as an LVN, did a couple of lots of different jobs, trying to learn everything and navigate that space. And I always knew I wanted to, get my RN license and continue on in that realm. So I ended up doing that, became an RN in 2012. I started working in a telemetry unit. I didn't have that new grad type of foundation as an RN. I worked at a rural kind of community hospital, and they just didn't have a nurse residency program or an established new grad program. So I just kind of did it. after a while working there, kind of getting that experience under my belt, also seeing some things there that I was kind of like, I wonder if it's like this everywhere. I decided to work somewhere else as an RN. And I ended up working for a larger hospital, an academic kind of, county facility, all kinds of different opportunities there. And that's really where my advocacy journey started, being in a, like a government type agent. We're affiliated with the county, kind of learning like, oh, that's how things work. Okay. I also became involved with our union there. I was elected to represent our nurses on our bargaining team. And that's where I really, my journey started in advocacy, is learning how to negotiate, learning all of these things that, you have to keep, confidential, that you can't just go and say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're working on. Gaining those skills was so valuable to me. I really found my passion there for advocacy. And ever since then, I've been, involved in different things. I met you shortly after that time through the fellowship with ANA California. And it's just kind of launched from there. And I'm doing policy work with some other national professional nursing organizations, and it brings me a lot of joy. It feels like the work is a different kind of work now. That is still necessary. As I've moved away from bedside, I kind of felt that void of like, I'm not being able to serve people as in depth as I was working at the bedside, but here doing this work, talking to legislators, looking at these bills, seeing how it's going to affect our profession and our practice is really something that's brought me a lot of joy back into my role. 13 years is a long time to be a nurse. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, really, my journey from where I started to where I am now.
That's awesome. I was trying not to smile too much when you said 13 years, because I think I've been a nurse about double that time. So I'm like,
I love it.
Now here's a word from our sponsor.
Bipartisanship means cooperation between members of different political parties in order to address and resolve issues or pass legislation.
I was always very curious and very interested in social justice growing up, and especially in high school and college, and really admired a lot of activists, and just really was keenly aware of the injustices that were always around us. But I never put nursing into that. I didn't even think that they had anything to do with each other. Come from a line of nurses, most Filipino women, at least from around that time. They came to the United States as nurses. So my mother and one of my aunts were nurses. I didn't want to go into nursing. It was really more, especially as immigrants, my parents wanted to provide us with stability. And, my mom had a good job. There was always work as a nurse. And so my parents said, just go into nursing school, and whatever you want to do after that, you can do. But that was their legacy for me, was a profession that I can always find work in and be stable in. And so I wanted to do something completely different. I actually wanted to take literature. I wanted to major in that. Of course, it was the whole, how are you going to get a job in that? What's that going to pay you? That was the bargain. I was going to become a nurse and pursue what I wanted afterwards. But then when I graduated and became an RN, making RN money, then I was like, oh, I'm going to stay a nurse because it's paying the bills and I'm able to travel. I had that kind of journey always in my mind of going back to what I wanted to do. As life happened, things happened. You get different milestones. I tried different specialties in nursing, worked my shifts. I had my life outside of work. So I was very much just, I'm going to retire as a nurse. And at the time I was an oncology infusion nurse, and my heart was in that. And I really loved what I did, but I couldn't see anything beyond that, and which was fine with me. I was just like, this is what I do. I'm very happy in my job. And then this thing called the pandemic happened. And I almost felt like, what do they call those, like, spies, and they get activated by like a word, and then like, everything like kicks in with like sleepers, or what do they call like there was a trigger word in it. Yeah. So when the pandemic happened, and just seeing in a short period of time, not just the injustices, but also the fear, also the veil, really the veil of normalcy, the veil of what I thought kept society together, just like fall. I got really mad, like really mad when people ask me about why I'm in advocacy. It really started from a place of anger. And I'm not like that kind of person. I think most people will say, oh, I can't imagine her like that. But even just talking about it now, I get really passionate and angry about it, because I really feel like we didn't have to get to that place as a society, especially in this country. Like it all could have been avoided. And I think a lot of the anger was self-directed, not me personally, but like to our profession, because nurses, healthcare, we were at the forefront of a lot of the suffering that was happening, and witnesses to so much death, so much loss, so much iniquity, so much just like stupid stuff happening. Like, oh my God, you're running out of gloves. Like, you're having to like wear one mask through the day, through the week, and washing gowns that we like everything that we were taught as nurses about infection control, about everything, just kind of went out the window. It just made me question. It's very matrix-like. That what is reality then? Like everything you're taught your whole life, and then overnight almost, it's like, oh no, forget all that. This is how you're going to do it from now on. The pandemic was on such a scale where you weren't prepared for it, because there was no cure. There was nothing that you can do, and people were figuring it out in real time. So that experience really started my journey into advocacy. And so long ago, that was 2020, and it's only 2024. My personal mission is to not have anyone in healthcare, especially nurses, have to go through what we went through as a profession in 2020, never to go through that again. And really the best way is for me to educate, for me to get nurses engaged and involved. The reality is you can only make so much difference within your organizations or at the bedside. I did a lot of research, a lot of digging, a lot of different things to see how I could make a difference. And lo and behold, my journey took me to what we term nursing advocacy, which is nurses getting involved in policy making. Things aren't going to change unless you change the rules that are running the game, so to speak, right? So, and that is where legislation comes in, policy making, talking to influential people, and ultimately being influential. And also to my role as a nursing administrator at the time, I was supervising a clinic. Something also connected in terms of, nurses never get asked about things. Like, that was most of the complaints I heard from nurses. They never ask us, or they don't care what we think. And I came to the realization that, what? They're not going to ask us. They're never going to ask us. Maybe as an afterthought, maybe out of courtesy, but for the most part, decisions are made. So it's also about just going out there and telling them what we as a profession need for us, for our patients, and just getting involved in the conversation. We advocate for our patients, for what they need in the hospital, orders, medications, their food. For most nurses, me, myself, included in that, I didn't connect that, we can also advocate beyond the bedside, like, to complain rightfully about policies that don't make sense. The talks I have with people is how much we do as nurses that is influenced by the government or mandated by the government. So that's my journey. It's been a very short journey, but I think over my lifetime, there were things that were ramping up just to kind of prime me for something like this. And that's my one woman mission, is to educate nurses, to get them more politically, civically engaged. So many things that happened in the pandemic occur again. And in this wonderful journey, I have met many nurses, wonderful nurses like you. There are people like us out there that want to make a change for our profession, for our patients, but have not had a platform or a voice. So in our conversations, we talk making a platform for these nurses and for our friends, and for anyone who wants to improve healthcare or just change it altogether. I think that's another episode, improving healthcare, changing the system altogether. But that's my story.
I think it kind of goes back to what you were saying about nurses aren't really asked to, have a say in certain things. And
just a reminder to like and subscribe to CitizenNurse News Network.